Shalom, everyone, and welcome to the Middle East and beyond. I'm Barry Stagner, coming to you from sunny Southern California, and I'm here with my friend and brother Amir Tsarfati from the Galilee. And Amir, great to see you. We've got a rather interesting season coming up. I was telling the church on Sunday the travel season is opening up, and we're off and running. I think you're actually heading out this evening. And maybe you can update everybody on what's coming up as far as teaching around the world.
Yes, exactly. First of all, Shalom, Barry. In a couple hours, I have a taxi that'll take me to the airport. I'm starting my journey to Frankfurt in Germany. And then we're going to have this coming weekend a big conference in the area of Stuttgart in a place called Schwäbisch Gmünd. Later on, we go to the Netherlands for another conference, and then Belgium. And that's, of course, for this month. And later on in June, we'll be in the United States, state of Idaho and Washington, and then a cruise to Alaska, back to Southern California, up to Canada, all the way from Victoria across all the way to Toronto, and that's just the portion until mid-August. So it's going to be very busy, but thankfully we are able to do that because there's nothing like boots on the ground and seeing people face to face.
Yeah, it's a wonderful thing. Well, Amir, again, we say this every week, but it's true every week that it's been a busy week in the news. Lots of stories circulating around Trump's visit to the Middle East. Lots of misinformation being promoted out there. And it was a very productive trip if you look at it through the right lens. So maybe you can address some of these things that have been spreading out there through the media nights and give us the accurate story of what exactly transpired on that trip.
So first of all, why would anyone try to spread fake news regarding Trump's visit? It's because a lot of people don't like the alliance between Trump and Netanyahu, the alliance between the U.S. and Israel. Some of them are Netanyahu haters from Israel, and some of them are people who believe in American exceptionalism, and they're separatists, which means they don't want America to stand by Israel and, God forbid, fight with Israel in other places, such as Iran. And therefore, these are the elements that are feeding the media with fake news. Fake news such as Trump is about to recognize a Palestinian state. Fake news as Trump is frustrated with Netanyahu. Trump is about to abandon Israel. Trump is about the whole deal with the Houthis and the release of the U.S. citizen, the soldier Idan Alexander. All of that has been done behind the back of Netanyahu. The fact that Trump is not coming to Israel during this visit shows that Israel is no longer such an important ally in the Middle East. All of these things, whereas in reality, for months we've known that this trip is not about Israel and any diplomatic thing. It's more about business. And if you want to understand the importance of Netanyahu and Israel to the Trump administration, just understand that the first foreign leader that has ever been invited to the White House during this second term was Netanyahu. And the first and the only foreign leader that was twice there in the last 100 days is Netanyahu. Now, the thing is this, Pastor Barry, there is no doubt that the trip was successful, but from a business perspective, $5.1 trillion deals were signed, and that's exactly what President Trump wanted to achieve. He did not talk about Gaza as much as you would expect. He did not talk about Palestinian state. He did not give the Saudis nuclear agreement. He did not capitulate to the Iranians with their demands. He did not demand Israel to stop the war in Gaza. All of that has not happened. Everything that happened was in the business arena. And by the way, I just learned that even this whole Qatari gift, the $400 million worth of a flying palace, is actually the idea of the American administration to begin with, to buy that plane from Qatar to replace Air Force One right now, because the next Air Force One is suffering from major delays and there is a need to have something in between. And then the Qatari says, no, you don't have to buy, we'll give it to you. So that's how that one evolved. So there was a lot of fake news. And again, bottom line, Trump is back in the White House. He is still on the same page with Israel when it comes to Iran, when it comes to Gaza, and when it comes to the Abraham Accords that he would like to expand the moment the war will be over. Probably the only thing that kind of was out of the ordinary is the fact that he agreed to meet with the Syrian president and lift the sanctions. But again, what he said, we'll do that in exchange for some major steps that the Syrians needs to do, which will include a recognition in the fact that Israel controls the Golan Heights, because that's what America recognized already. So that's it. Right. Successful trip, but it was a business one. And he did bring the trillions to America.
Yeah, Amir, it's interesting thinking back over history. You know, we've traveled through seasons that have had some type of label attached to them, the Victorian era, and the Industrial Age. Then we went into the information age, and now we've arrived at the misinformation age. And prior to coming on the program this morning, earlier today, I was watching something from Memory TV. It was in Arabic, and the transcript below was translated into English, so I could tell what the host of the program was saying. And he was a Hamas promoter, and he was saying, what is happening in America on the university campuses is something we never could have imagined. It is a dream come true. American students are in support of Hamas and against anyone who is a Zionist. And all of this is, again, it's the end product of misinformation. And boy, do we live in an age of confusion and delusion. And this is all preparatory for what's going to happen during the tribulation, obviously, when the earth dwellers believe the lie of the Antichrist, as Paul predicted. We've also had the Houthis continuing their attacks on Israel. And this is nothing new, but it does continue. And maybe you can develop the timeline a little bit for us of events that have been happening in that realm.
So as of the last night, the Houthis announced a naval blockade on the port of Haifa in Israel, because they saw that the blockade on Ben Gurion Airport is not really exactly working. But the thing is this, Pastor Barry, Israel attacked there on Friday. We kind of damaged severely their two most important seaports in Hodeidah and Al Salif. And that brings me to the timeline as of what happened since the beginning of the war with the Houthis. So let's look at the map and see Yemen and see how it all started in the beginning of the war, when the Yemenites, Houthis, decided to impose a maritime blockade on the Bab el-Mandab Strait, the entrance from the Indian Ocean to the Red Sea, in order to obviously block anything that goes to Israel or that has to go through the Suez Canal. Big damage to the port of Eilat in Israel, but even more so, big damage to the Egyptian economy with that. However, then they started sending drones and rockets towards Eilat, and they saw that that's not helping. They started attacking central Israel with some drones and missiles, and as the war expanded, the range has expanded, and they started attacking more and more area deep into central Israel, into Jerusalem area, even towards the Dead Sea. And the only time they stopped is when there was a temporary ceasefire, and that's when they also lifted the blockade in the Red Sea, and then The minute we resume fighting, they resumed the blockade and they renewed their missile fire towards central Israel. And of course, Ben Gurion Airport, unfortunately, was attacked successfully. There was one rocket, only one, out of more than 420 rockets that were launched towards Israel. One did make it, and unfortunately, it caused a great damage, not to the area, but to the image of Ben Gurion as a safe place. And a lot of airlines suspended their flights to Israel up until now. But again, that did not hold water for too long. Airlines are returning to fly to Israel. The Houthis are angry that Israel is now fighting again with Gideon's chariots. And this is when they impose as of last night, they want to impose naval blockade on the port of Haifa, which is an imaginary thing because they cannot do that. There's a lot of ships coming all the way to the port of Haifa right now. A lot of airplanes landing in Tel Aviv. And I'm going to be on one of those airplanes leaving Tel Aviv in the middle of the night. So, again, they try their best. They can't do much. Israel will pay a visit again, maybe a few more times. And when the war will end, we are going to come out victorious. Gaza will be leveled and the Houthis will be crippled. Because, that we share no border with them. They're going to have to lick their wounds at the end of the war, all because they wanted to help those that have already been defeated. If you could ask Nasrallah, if Nasrallah could speak from hell, from where he is right now, if you could ask him if it was worth it, he would have told you no. Well, maybe we need to take care of the Houthis leader also, so he can be also in the same place, sharing his frustration with Hassan Nasrallah and all the leaders of Hamas.
Yeah, Amir, maybe you could talk a little bit about the Yemeni Palestinian or the Hamas relationship, and why is there such a great concern outside of a shared hatred for Israel? What exactly is the connection there between that group and this country?
So first of all, the Houthis are Shiite faction in Islam. They are a proxy of the Iranians. So they were part of the ring of fire that Iran has been preparing to one day attack Israel simultaneously. But remember, not only that, they're very, very extreme jihadists, and their flag is saying death to America, death to Israel, curse be upon the Jews, and Allahu Akbar. I mean, for them, it is part of their agenda to bring about death, not just to Israel, to America as well, and to pronounce curse upon the Jewish people. This is who they are. That's what they believe. That's the essence of their faith and their actions. And all they needed is an excuse to fulfill that. And the moment October 7th took place and the moment Gaza started getting the Israeli retaliation, for them, okay, now we can finally fulfill all that we've been praying for and hoping for, which is taking an active part in the attempt to bring about the end of Israel. I think that looking back, they can understand that it wasn't such a good idea. But remember, this is an ideological thing, religious thing. It's not just political, and it's not just a plot of the Iranians. The Iranians found a group that is stupid enough to do whatever the Iranians want and to believe that they're actually doing whatever they want. And there you go. And they don't need much. They're not striving for wealth. All they want is to fulfill their jihadi ambitions. And so they don't mind walking barefoot with a gown or a robe that is, it stinks so much that it's already standing. You don't have to fold it, and they don't mind. They don't mind not eating much. They don't mind not having great services. All they want, all they care, is to inflict suffering and death upon Israel. That's their ideology. But again, they're using the whole Gaza thing as their excuse. Once the war will come to an end, I think they will have to finish their aggression because they'll have no more excuses.
Yeah, Amir, I think whenever we talk about and use the term eschatology, as Christians, that always sends up a flare. Okay, we're talking about the last days, but Shia Islam has an eschatology as well, and it includes bringing about an apocalypse. And remember, Ahmadinejad was always kind of trying to play the role of a John the Baptist type character and be the forerunner for the 12th Imam or the Mahdi. And it was necessary for him to create this apocalyptic scenario in order for the peace bringer to come back and for the Mahdi to come back and for Jesus even to return and tell the world that Christianity and Judaism is wrong and Islam is the way. So, there's a very definite ideological motivation specific to the Shiites that I think comes into play also. And, we've encouraged you every week to make sure that you're subscribing, sharing, liking, and commenting. And I'd like to do so again. And first of all, to thank those who have done so. And, as I've been encouraging everyone, on the programs I do, and this program, obviously, and Amir does the same thing, if all that you put is where you're from, that's very encouraging as well. And it gets the number of comments up, and therefore it's more visible to other people who need to have this information. And this is a critical time that we live in. And so in this age of technology and misinformation, we need to use it to our advantage. So please make sure you're subscribing to both of our channels, as well as liking, commenting, and sharing. And Amir, watching these events around the world, we can't move too far away from your neighborhood and what's happening on your southern border. And Gideon's chariot operation has begun, and there's a lot of activity going on. And you gave us a very wonderful picture last week of the tactic that's involved. Maybe you can bring us an update regarding what's happening there on your southern border.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Pastor Bear. Well, of course, last week we said that there's only two options, the Witkoff outline or Gideon's chariots, and Hamas has to choose. Hamas has been saying no to the Witkoff outline because Hamas wants to bring an end to the war and to bring a complete Israeli withdrawal from Gaza and, the rehabilitation of Gaza. And the most important thing, Hamas doesn't want to disarm and doesn't want to lose power. So all of that is unacceptable. Israel decided this time we go all the way to the end. And we decided to continue and negotiate with them in Doha under fire, which means Gideon's chariots began to roll. And very, very significant progress. We already have over 450,000 people from northern Gaza began to flee all the way down south. Remember, the first stage of Gideon's chariots is to evacuate the population from the north down towards the newly established humanitarian zone, where in 2 weeks American companies will distribute food. This, what you see on the screen right now, these are the evacuation notices. Israel is telling them in advance, leave, because soon we're going in and it will be a very dangerous place for you. So much for a genocide. You're telling them to leave. And then, of course, they're leaving by the hundreds of thousands. Hamas is not happy, but they're losing their grip on the people. And look at them. Exodus back towards the south. And this is the first stage. Israel is now having massive power of tanks and infantry all around the Gaza Strip. And in fact, allow me to show you the map that is of what is going on there. Take a look. This is the Gaza Strip. And Israel has areas where we already control, areas that we asked them to evacuate, and areas that are being now taken in the new operation in yellow. And I want you to see that there are 5 operating divisions, the same division from the south and from the north, and then 4 others that are coming from the east towards the west. And we are now pushing forward towards taking over most of the Gaza Strip and bringing the Gazans to an area where Hamas will no longer have the ability to touch the food and the humanitarian aid. Until then, the problem is the area is not ready yet. We still need another 10 days or so, or maybe a week or so. That's the area that we are working on. We already brought the U.S. team. We're training them. We are briefing them. These are U.S. veterans. Here they are on the screen. You can see. We are telling them how to do things, what to do. And as soon as everybody will be ready and the U.S. effort will be deployed on the ground, then, of course, it will be the end of Hamas, because Hamas will no longer be able to touch anything that goes in, and Hamas will no longer have any control over the civilian population. And then, of course, the 4 maneuvering divisions will go all the way in, destroy Hamas, destroy anything above the ground and under the ground that is suspected of terrorism. Now, another thing, Pastor Barry, I gave breaking news a couple days ago, and I'm going to say it again. Hamas is in such desperate position right now, and Israel is in such a huge momentum right now, that President Trump is actually pushing for something bigger than the Witkoff outline. President Trump is basically telling everyone, I want all the hostages back. I want Hamas to disarm. I want the expulsion of Hamas's leaders. I want to establish a U.S. oversight of the region, and relocating the population that cannot live anymore. Everything is going to be destroyed. Everything is getting destroyed. And the UNRWA just said that 92% of the buildings in Gaza are either destroyed or severely damaged. 92%. When President Trump wants to relocate those Gazans, it's not because he hates them, it's because he cares for them. No one can live there. It's uninhabitable. And so there's an effort to, first of all, take care of them with food and medication, and then, of course, to relocate them to several countries that have already agreed to accept them. And eventually, within few months, Gaza will have no Gazans and will have no Hamas and will have literally not a single building standing that is not leveled to the ground, because it was used for terrorism, and it is still being used for terrorism as long as it's standing. So, a new era, a new future, but we're in the money time right now, Pastor Barry. This is it. We're not going... Netanyahu made it very, very clear. Once we go in, we're here to stay. And once we go in, we're here to wipe them out. It's the whole method of going in, going out, going in, going out. It's over. And also remember, we just recruited 60,000 reservists. These are people who have jobs, they have schools, they have families. You can't just recruit them and release them and recruit them and release them. You have to, use it when you have it, or else they won't come back again when you need them again, because they'll say, you're just playing with us. So this is where we are right now. It's the money time, Pastor Barry. We are at the very end, and because we are at the very end, because we can smell the end and see the finish line of that, the enemy is so angry that he's causing nations after nations to come up against Israel right now and to protest and to threaten us with severing ties and other things and embargo and everything. Look, it's not going to help anyone. We need to bring this war to an end, and the only way to bring this war to an end is to defeat Hamas once and for all. So all of our enemies all around the world will know that if you want to start a war with us, you are going to be wiped out, and we will finish the job. You cannot leave them on their feet, because if they stay on their feet, all they do, just like the Houthis, is regroup and go back to fight against you. We cannot do that to ourselves after October 7th. We cannot do it to our children and to the children of our children. So this is where we are. Gideon's chariots are rolling There is a delegation in Doha in case Hamas wants to raise a white flag. And in the meantime, Israel is fighting not only on the ground, but also in the international diplomatic arena, and with fake news and other things. But we will prevail.
You know, Amir, we hear this genocide term, and you made the point multiple times, you know, that how is the population increasing, you know, if there's a genocide that's taking place within the Palestinians at the hand of Israel. You know, and I was doing a little homework on this fact, and, you know, on May 14th, 1948, there were 900,000 Arabs living in the region, you know, now known as Israel, once labeled as Palestine. Today, there's 2 million living just in Gaza alone. So how exactly do you arrive at genocide when the population has increased in 77 years fourfold? It just doesn't, or twofold at least. It doesn't make any sense to make this argument. And yet, this is what's being spread out there in the media. These are the things that some of these very foolish young people are commenting on and basing their decision and perspective on, which is just, again, misinformation that is being spread through the media. And, you know, Amir, I've thought about this a lot lately as we're headed to Europe. Boy, talk about misinformation and misguidedness. Europe is a mess as far as its economy in many ways, but also its perspective on the nation of Israel. There's been a lot of talk coming from European leaders about Israel and their stand really against the Jewish people. Maybe you can give us some insight there too.
Yeah. Well, we can clearly see the hypocrisy of the European leaders and media versus the European people that are not exactly are fond with what their leaders are doing. There's a lot of progressive liberal governments now in Spain and also in the UK and other countries, and we see, because everything they say and everything they do is derived from their progressive mindset. And the media is, of course, collaborating with them as well. But it's very interesting because over the last few days, the world could see the hypocrisy. I mean, think about it for a minute. It's the same UK and France that just lifted sanctions from Syria when an ex-ISIS becomes a self-appointed president, and he's allowing his own gangs right now to commit genocide when it comes to the Alawites and the Kurds and the Christians in Syria. And with that, they have no problem. But when Israel is defending itself against a genocidal cult that came and massacred us, this is when they want to impose sanctions on us. It is ridiculous. And interestingly enough, Hamas blessed and welcomed them. Hamas said, we are actually encouraged, and we thank UK and France and Canada. Isn't that interesting? When Hamas is welcoming your decision, probably you're on the wrong side of... Exactly. And tell me who your friends are, and I'll tell you who you are. And this is it. But Pastor Barry, a few days ago, we had the Eurovision Song Contest. Every year, countries in Europe, and Israel was added to it later on. Countries in Europe are gathering in a European capital to for a song contest, and whoever wins gets to host the next year's contest. And this year it was in Basel, Switzerland. Basel, Switzerland. It's a very iconic city for us because in 1897, Benjamin Theodore Herzl, this is where he founded the Zionist Congress, and he said, it is in Basel that I actually founded the Jewish state. And he said then, within 5, mostly or maximum 50 years, there will be a Jewish state. Little did he know that 50 years later, almost to the day, Israel was established. And he didn't live to see that because he died in 1904. But I want you to know that in Basel, this year, our representative, Yuval Raphael, who survived the Nova Festival massacre by pretending dead underneath a pile of dead bodies in a bomb shelter near the Nova Festival area. She represented us. And guess what? There are two different votes. There's the votes of the judges, the jury, and they're very biased because they're the media and the government. And there is the vote of the public. The vote of the public. Take a look at, let's move to the other one that shows what the jury gave us. The judges gave us the 15th place. The moment the public vote came, Israel went to a number 1. You understand what happened? The people spoke. And the people spoke way louder than their own government, their own judges. And it's been the second, maybe the third year in a row that the countries that almost give us no score at all are the places where the public gave us the highest score. And the interesting thing is in 2025, the only country where the public and the jury gave us the same was a Muslim country, Azerbaijan. Isn't that interesting? So you can clearly see the hypocrisy here. These governments are not even representing their own people. But I can also tell you, Pastor Barry, that for a Nova Festival survivor to be there and in the day before the contest, take a look at this protest, the pro-Palestinian protest. Look at what one of them did to her when she looked at the protest. Look at it. Oh, he's basically signaling with his hand that he will slit her throat. Take a look at it again. I don't know if you can. Whoop, there you go. That's who these people are. They are into murder and killing and slaughtering. All they care is death, 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 death. And you know what? They're not many. They're very loud. They're very violent. But when the public voted exactly the opposite. And the public in the UK and the public in France and the public even in Norway and in Spain. Take a look. When right before after the contest, the Spanish Prime Minister says Israel should be excluded. They love to kick out the Jews. I mean, it's a habit of the Spanish, I guess, Spanish governments. They already expelled the Jews in the end of the 1400s. And every time we don't fit their narrative, they just kick us out. I mean, I guess that's in their culture. But I want you to also know that the Spanish television, right before the contest, they put this slide. When human rights are at stake, silence is not an option. They put that so the public's opinion will be swayed to vote against Israel. That's what they tried to do, and it didn't work. Even I think the Norwegian television put that one also, a short video. Belgium. In Belgium. Take a look at that. In Belgium.
I speak up for Palestine. I speak up for Palestine. I speak up for Palestine. I speak up for Palestine.
No one speaks out for the Jewish people that were murdered. No one speaks out for the October 7th massacre. They speak out for Palestine. And the people of Belgium gave us the maximum score. See, that exposes the dissonance, the contrast between the government and the small, violent, and loud minority, which the media echoes, and the people themselves. So the hypocrisy of the Europeans, and as the closer we get to victory, the more pressure they apply. The UK just suspended trade talks. They are putting arms embargo on Israel. France wants to revisit Israel's role in the EU and agreement with Israel of the EU. Sweden's foreign minister just talked about sanctions against Israel. One by one, these liberal governments are trying to stop us from doing what we need to do in order to survive. They want Hamas in power. They are hiding behind this famine and genocide thing, which they know is not true. But who cares about the truth? Who cares about facts?
Yeah.
Let's just make sure Israel will not win this war, or else our narrative has been wrong the whole time. So, by the way, the last, I just want to show something. I don't know if the control room has the UK. You see why they're so anti-Israel? They have to appease their own Muslim community. One city after another in the UK, they are getting now Muslim. Do we have it? We don't have it. Okay, so they have. So there's a city called Rotham, and they just had a Muslim mayor, and Rotham is the main city where Muslim gangs groomed young British girls. We're talking about thousands of cases where young British white girls were groomed by Pakistanis for the most part, rape gangs, and we're talking about every one of them suffered dozens of rapes, and no politician wanted to deal with that because he didn't want to look like he's Islamophobic, and he wants to appease his Islamic population so they will vote for him. So they were sweeping all of that under the carpet, and Rotham is the main city. So here it is now, they're having such a big Muslim majority in that city, and now there's a Muslim Pakistani woman as mayor, and now you understand why the UK has to come against Israel so elegantly and so easily, because it is to appease that community. And it's the same with France, it's the same with Spain, and it's the same with many other Western European cities and countries. It's very, very sad.
Yeah, it is. And Amir, one of the things I think the Eurovision story in particular highlights is it's kind of a microcosm of the greater picture that those in places of power are indifferent to the common citizenry of any country. And, this has been one of the things that is talked about here in the States, is that the Democratic Party doesn't seem to realize that their agenda has been rejected by the majority of Americans. And we don't want to see this wokeism. And we don't want to see this meshing of the genders and all the other things that are predominant within their particular platform. And yet it doesn't matter what the people want anymore. And I think this is really kind of a hint as to the lateness of the hour and the development of that globalist mentality that is necessary in the high places, so to speak, in order for the Antichrist to rise to power. And it is late in the game, and it's a pretty incredible time for us to be alive and to have the Word of God to share with the rest of the world. And one of the big tells, I think, of how far we have fallen, so to speak, comes out of Palm Springs, California, which we had a very bizarre and unusual event take place here in the States, and that was a terrorist act on a fertility clinic. We've seen terrorist acts on abortion clinics, but now this is kind of the opposite end of the spectrum, so to speak, where there was a bombing in Palm Springs that the FBI has confirmed as an intentional act of terrorism. And I think one of the most bizarre things that has come out of this is a statement that I've actually heard repeated by others, that this man, the 25-year-old Edward Bartkus, who is a pro-mortalist and believed that humans had never given consent to existing. Now, how can you do that when you don't exist? But he left a 30-minute audio recording in which he explained his motive, saying, I figured I'd just make a recording explaining why I've decided to bomb and a fertility clinic. He said, basically, it just comes down to I'm angry that I exist. And you know what? Nobody got my consent to bring me here. Now, you can't get much more delusional than that. And this, points to what Paul talked about, is that strong delusion necessary to have a society that believes the lie, the claim of the Antichrist, that he is God. And what a bizarre mindset that we have that's prevalent, especially in many people today. Nobody asks me for permission for me to exist. That's pretty
I
strange
wonder,
thinking.
I wonder, I wonder how they could ask him if he did not exist. But
Yeah, yeah. But to many, it makes perfect sense. And I've heard others say the same thing, that, well, I didn't ask to be alive right now. Well, you can't. And yet this is just accepted as, within many circles, that is, as normal thinking. And Amir, we also know that artificial intelligence is going to play a huge role in what happens during the tribulation period. We know that there's going to be an image that is erected by man that apparently appears to have life breathed into it. And the whole world, Revelation 13 says that all the earth dwellers are going to worship the beast whom this image represents. And there's a story that came out this week that the bias that is basically programmed into AI leans left in most of the instances. And, the president had called for an ideologically neutral AI, and there was some efforts to put this to the test. And all models estimated that even the slightest leftward bias was surprising, according to Justin Grimmer, who ran this particular survey. And what they found often is when AI is asked certain questions, the answers that come up and the advice that's given basically is about defunding the police, school vouchers, gun control, transgenderism, Europe as an ally, Russia as an ally, and tariffs were some of the topics of the 30 prompted models that were presented regarding information. And there was a story, Amir, that just came out yesterday, and there was a man that reported there was actually a pastor of a church who, in this guy's estimation, was okay. He was okay. He was an all right pastor. And then suddenly, about 3 months ago, they noticed that his sermons got very deep, very technical, very insightful. And then the board, investigated the guy and found out that he was using AI to create his sermon. So its role is advancing in these last days. And like Elon Musk said, it's the greatest threat to humanity that is present on the world scene today. So very interesting story.
it's very, very interesting. It's and that's the thing, Pastor Barry. Man is trying to find answers to the things of God because man insists that God does not exist. So, by the way, ChatGPT, if you insist on one word answer, if there is a God, they'll tell you no. I mean, that's how it is. And this is how the answers are being crafted. So it's very interesting that AI will replace the work of the Holy Spirit in showing you how to teach the word. And Pastor Barry, and this is why we ask people to take part in this digital war that we are engaged in, because people don't understand. This is a war. The enemy is fighting, and the digital arena is the battlefield now. And this is why we give you ammunition. You've got the weapon, which is social media. Use the ammo and just load and shoot by subscribing, commenting, sharing, and following. It's important to us, but it's important also for so many that need to hear the truth, and they simply never heard it. The algorithm, once you make it clear that engagement is very, very high, the algorithm will pop our programs and our content on a person's friends, and that's it. So, by the way, before that, I just want to tell people the Telegram channel that you see on the far end on the screen, there's a QR code. A lot of people don't understand that Telegram used to allow you to take the link of my channel and just go on your desktop without having to download the app. Everything has changed. Even on desktop, you need the app right now. whether it's PC or Mac, there is a desktop version, and only then you'll be able to see the news, join, and follow. So these are unbelievable days. Do that if you want to stay in the picture of what really is going on. So, Pastor Barry, there's another big story that you came up with.
Yeah, Amir, just kind of commenting on our last story and the meshing of AI with building a sermon. If AI is leaning left, what are the sermons going to do? And, when you come up with questions on passages regarding Israel, the rebirth of the nation, the regathering of the people, your answers are going to be anti-Semitic. And this now is infiltrating those who are trying to present a message to people under the banner of the church. So we are living in perilous times, to be sure. And, Amir, looking at some of the things that have happened since 2020, and, you took a travel sabbatical last year, and it's going to be good to get out there together again and be talking with people. And we've already had a wonderful start to the year back in January with the cruise in the Caribbean and the people that joined us there. But, there's been a lot of things that have taken place that have developed since 2020. And, there's lots of talk, and, people have gone back and forth about the vaccine, and, divided people and polarized people and broke up families and caused division in churches. I remember when, we were first kind of moving through this season, and who knew what it was actually about? We were getting so much information and mixed stories about this, but it seems as though some of the warnings, were not just simply sensationalist people who were, trying to, fight against big pharma and all that, but there's some actual factual information that's now coming out. And this story, the headline reads that worldwide embalmer surveys say 250 embalmers find white rubbery clots. In the U.S. Air Force, retired Major Thompson Haviland's global survey of embalmers found that 83% of embalmers now report white, fibrous, or rubbery clots. And they report the clots are found in nearly 27.5% of all cadavers. And these clots were not seen before the mass COVID injection campaigns began. And together with the microclotting, it's one of the most urgent and unaddressed medical phenomenon of our time. And, again, Amir, I think what this points to is not the initial debate about, Moderna or Pfizer or any of these things and that we saw and heard so much about. But the reality is that beyond the polarization, it seems as though there are those who ought to be trustworthy that can't be trusted, and who have taken a Hippocratic oath to not bring about harm, who overlook these things, without, we've all talked about the vaccines and the fact that, many of them were not FDA approved, but they were just rushed to market without some of the testing. And there was a lot of research behind some of these vaccines, some of it lasting for some 30 years. But the reality is now we're seeing that there was an impact on people's DNA, and there were things created, and there are clots that have caused harm to a lot of people around the world. But again, that's a debated topic. But the reality is, it just seems like we've got a situation that we've never had experienced before, where people who have been entrusted with our health care aren't interested in that at all, and would rather advance the sales of their particular product. So this is a pretty major tell on the mindset of people in places of power, again, in these last days.
It is, definitely. And another big story that made it to the news is GPS disruption that was reported in most critical maritime checkpoints, which also is something that will characterize future events. Can you elaborate on that one?
Well, yeah, Amir, there's been so many things that are happening regarding some of the technology today. I find it interesting that this story, kind of parallels, and of course it brings up the Strait of Hormuz, and all the shipping lanes, and we've talked about the fact that the North Pole, the polar axis, has been shifting, and true magnetic north has been moving, which is not unusual, and it's always moved throughout the course of history since we've had the technology to track it, but it's been moving from over Canada towards Siberia at record paces, which has caused for the recalibrating of GPS systems around the world to be happening more frequently than they used to. And, because we live in this age of technology and because so many weapons and so many devices are related to GPS systems, now the one issue that's addressed in this article is economic in nature. And, when you pair all these things together and disrupting, commercial ships and the arrival of product to market and these other things, and you pair this with the fact that, if you've got this disruption in GPS systems, you've also got a disruption in, military hardware and the capability, for drone warfare and the other things. And it's always been interesting to consider that much of the language that we find in the book of Revelation about the tribulation, as well as some of the language in Ezekiel, you've got some classic ancient warfare items that are named there, which I've always found to be curious, that the weaponry in the Ezekiel warfare, shields and bucklers and horses, some of this old-fashioned weaponry. And it makes you wonder if we're not going to see, a major disruption in the ability to conduct modern warfare, and things are going to return maybe to more of a boots-on-the-ground approach. And it's just interesting to see this particular element introduced as a major economic concern in these last days.
Yeah. Buckle your saddle. I mean, you might need it very soon. Pastor Barry, later last week, I think it was Friday, I got some amazing news that my newest book, The Israel Decree, became a New York Times bestseller. And why is it such a miracle? It's because the New York Times is exactly the opposite of the content of this book. It pushes exactly the opposite content. Everything about the New York Times is absolutely standing in contrast to the content of the book, and also the timing of it. The timing, in the middle of a war, the New York Times criticizes Israel day and night. So I don't know, it was obviously a godly intervention. So we received, אם יש לנו את זה של harvest, we received an interesting report from Harvest Publishers House that the book became a New York Times bestseller, and we encourage you, of course, to order it and give it to people all over, because it is containing super important things. But unfortunately, though, whenever something is becoming successful, there's always the parasites that are trying to profit from it. And if you go online and click the Israel Decree, believe it or not, you'll find so many books that are not even mine, and they are workbooks. I don't know if we have that on the screen to show people, but okay. So I did post it on Telegram. I did post it on Telegram, and there's quite a few here. Yeah, here it is. Take a look at it. The real book is on top. Everything else is not mine, and yet they're using the name so just be careful. I mean, if you want to get it. It's just an AI cover, and they claim to have known the book before. Yeah, the thing is, I don't have a workbook yet out, so all these workbooks are not mine.
Yeah,
just keep that in mind, okay? And plus, they charge twice than what my book costs. So I'm not sure, so just be careful when you do that. And I want to thank everyone that ordered the book, that made sure that even the New York Times could not ignore it, and that now we can, and now we just need to look. I'm not intoxicated with titles. All I want is the truth to go out. I don't care about titles. I care about the fact that these books will be given to as many people as possible. I want them to be on every shelf of every bookstore across the world. And that's why we need your help to continue. Order the book and give it to as many people as you can. Well, Pastor Barry, I think we made it to the end.
We did. And Amir, let me just say something here. We have talked many times about this particular issue, and discovering Daniel, revealing Revelation, had the numbers to be put on the New York Times bestseller list. But I have to say, I agree 100% with what you said. This is God. This was supernatural that the Lord caused this to happen, because the reality is, if you don't understand the Israel decree, you're not going to understand Daniel or Revelation. And this is it's a hand of God. There's no question about it.
Yeah.
So excited for you. Congratulations to you. And pray the Lord use this book mightily to set things straight in the minds of many.
Yeah. All glory to God. Honestly, I've been writing book. This is my 12th book, and I never expected anything from the New York Times because nothing that I write fits the narrative that newspaper, that progressive newspaper, is pushing. But the sad thing is that the New York Times is the premier league of authors and books. The gold, exactly. So if that can open more doors and can get more people to read other books, then that's worth it. And that's all I can say. Well, Pastor Barry, it's time to bless the people with the Aaronic blessing, and hope and pray that people will share this with as many as they can. And once we're done here, I'm off to the airport. So I'll pray in Hebrew and you in English. יברכך אדוני וישמרך, יאר אדוני פניו אליך ויחונך, יישא אדוני פניו אליך, וישם לך שלום.
The Lord bless you and keep you. The Lord make his face shine upon you and be gracious to you. The Lord lift up his countenance toward you and give you his peace. Amen and amen.
Amen. Remember, download the Telegram app on your desktop as well. Follow me. That's over there, the QR code. Follow us on social media and spread this program and share it with as many people as you can. Thank you. God bless you from Galilee and from Southern California. Shalom. We love you. And I'll see you. Both of us will see you guys in Europe in just a few days. Bye-bye.